Enough of that. Should we get back to things down here on Earth and down here in this country?
Yes,
Which is all pretty serious stuff, though very small in cosmic terms. Let's talk to the Shadow Secretary for Business, Andrew Griffith, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning. Are you relieved? Are you breathing a sigh of relief that Sir Keir Starmer has done a complete and utter U-turn when it comes to at least one element of the Workers' Rights Bill?
It's a good outcome for young people who want their chance, their shot at life, their chance of a job, and businesses who will be better equipped to take them on without the fear that they're going to be able to run straight to an employment tribunal on their very first day in work. So, yes, this is a good outcome for business. We, the Conservative Party, have worked collaboratively with business to force this U-turn on the government. But exactly as you say, this is a 329-page bill now. They've taken out one page. There's 329 pages of similarly damaging things left. And look, if you've taken the blowtorch off the arsonist, but they've still got a whole bunch of matches and lighter fuel, you're not that much further down the road.
What do you make of economists and experts in many of the papers this morning saying that the budget we saw this week is going to lead to lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards? They say that workers are going to be thousands of pounds worse off by these stealth taxes.
Well, that's exactly what we're seeing. This morning, I'm releasing analysis on business rates that's going to absolutely clobber pubs and restaurants and some small businesses up and down the country. You barely heard a word of that from the budget. It was frankly dishonest in terms of what's going on there. That's going to harm jobs. It's going to harm our high streets and economic growth. And that's what you get, to be honest. You go and tax people more, you undermine incentives to build a business. Someone builds a business and then you tax them when they try and pass it on to their children with the family business death tax. No wonder we've got an anemic economy where we found out yesterday that 250,000 people are leaving, 100,000 of them, some of our youngest, bestest and brightest. You've got to invert all of this. If a government was serious about growth, it wouldn't be pursuing the Employment Rights Bill, the bill for unemployment, and it would not have absolutely done the budget that we heard about on Wednesday, which is on the side of welfare, on the side of the public sector, very cosseted, but not on the side of people who get up and work hard in the morning or small businesses.
Does all this leave you on the back foot, though, Andrew, in the sense that an awful lot of what we heard in the budget, I mean, frankly, the stuff that is really going to sting is not being brought in for several years, right? So you can't, and probably about the time we start talking about the next general election. So it's bad news for Labour that way if it all goes ahead. But you will not be able to turn round as an opposition party and say, we're going to scrap all of this, because you'd be left with an enormous black hole if you did that.
Well, look, a couple of things. First of all, I think the next election, there will be a very clear divide about the economy, about whose side people are on. We'll be putting forward plans to properly cut red tape and set out the detail of that, not another trust me, but an actual show me. We'll have a series of tax choices, such as the promise we've already made and funded to cut stamp duty for everybody's first home. That's huge in terms of its benefit to the economy. And yes, there'll be tough choices on public spending. I was a finance director for 12 years. You don't become wildly popular by being the finance director telling people that they can't just spend money. But people respect that if you're clear about why you need to do that. We can't carry on. An increasing number of people, I think, recognise this, which is sadly why some people are leaving. We can't carry on as we are. We need a different sort of government that's willing to make hard choices. And yes, the government, the budget that Rachel Reeves showed yesterday has backloaded a whole bunch of tax rises, but only to fuel her spending plans. The Labour Party's inability to reform welfare, because it's their backbenchers that are calling the shots now, not our Prime Minister, and their difficulty with actually trying to grow an economy, because their values don't support growing an economy, as with the unemployment bill, which remains in all forms other than this one very important and valuable concession they've made.
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 73% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 73% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 extra months free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
Can I bring you back to those net migration figures and that near record exodus of under 35s leaving Britain due to the increasing costs here? We are in danger here, aren't we, of losing our highly skilled people, the best and brightest people in Britain. How do we ensure that young people want to stay in this country and have their families here and set up their businesses here and work here in Britain?
Well, we need a government that talks more about opportunity, that projects a positive vision. I want to see a new generation of entrepreneurs. This is a fantastic country. Lots of people want to come here, clearly, not always the right ones. But we want to make it easier to start, grow, set up a business, run a business, have a life. We want to get London and our big urban areas building again. They're barely building. It's terrible. And we need to reform the red tape that makes everything so blooming slow. In the second quarter of this year, the last quarter, I've got figures available, there were 901 applications for judicial review. Now, that's quite a technical term, but what it means is every time in this country someone tries to do something, build something, change something, they run off to a bloated legal system. You know, it's killing us. And so the next Conservative government will reform some of these big challenges and make this a much better place to be. Our mayors need to get to grips with street crime. They seem to find no problem at all stopping farmers from having a peaceful protest in Whitehall on the day of the budget, but they can't stop people having their mobile phones snatched at hundreds of thousands of levels. So there's just a great deal that we need to do as a country, but it can all be done. There's other countries out there that get these things right. We need to learn from them.
Well, talking about other countries, and just before we let you go, you'll be aware that President Macron is bringing in a voluntary national service in France as a direct response to the threats that we're facing from Putin and Russia. Do we need to look at something along those lines in this country?
Look, potentially. I mean, the key word to me would be voluntary. I don't want to see the state telling people what they must and must not do, indeed, what they can and can't drink, or where they can and can't drive. So on a voluntary basis, by all means, let's have a look at it. I don't spend my life taking lots of lessons in life from France. We are Great Britain. This is a wonderful country. When we get our mojo, when we get our act together, there's no country on earth that can beat us. Now, sadly, we haven't done that for too long, but there is no reason, and the Conservative Party under new management can be a massive part of that.
OK. Andrew Griffith, good to see you, as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, Labour has ditched its flagship plan to give workers the right to claim unfair dismissal from day one in a job. A major climb down after businesses and peers revolted over the proposal.
Well, the qualifying period will now be 6 months rather than just 1 day, marking a direct challenge to the left of the Labour Party and a sharp break from Angela Rayner's original pledge.
Well, it comes as warnings grow that Rachel Reeves' budget will deliver lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards, with millions set to be worse off because of stealth taxes.
Well, let's speak now to Theo Usherwood from the Press Association, who's in the studio with us. Morning to you, Theo.
A very good morning to you both.
What do you make of this?
Well, let's start with the budget. The IFS, that's the Institute for Fiscal Studies, they're saying that it represents, this budget represents a breach of Labour's manifesto pledge from 2024 not to increase taxes on working people. YouGov have done a poll which found that 6 in 10 voters see it as a manifesto breach. And I did notice yesterday, for all the comments coming in from people like the Prime Minister when he was out and about, that Labour, the Labour hierarchy are not trying to deny that it's a manifesto breach, simply saying, well, working people are just going to have to pay that little bit more. And the Chancellor made the argument that she's trying to keep, the increases in tax down. But it does mean that people are going to feel worse off. And the gamble that the Chancellor is taking is that actually if public services can improve, then at least people will have the chance, because of the extra investment and the extra money coming in from taxes, that people will at least feel that they're paying for something worthwhile, and that we're in a situation at the moment where people are paying sky-high taxes but not feeling they're getting the public services that those taxes merit. And that's the gamble. But having said all of that, the other analysis that I thought was interesting from the IFS, or crucial from the IFS indeed, is the fact that they're making the point that she's actually backloading the pain. We're in the economy is in such a dire state at the moment that all the really difficult decisions are being put off towards the end of the Parliament, and the real gamble from the Chancellor is that actually things can improve to such an extent that in terms of the tax receipts, GDP growth coming in, that actually by the time we get to the end of the Parliament, things will have improved, and therefore those decisions, those even tougher decisions, won't have to be taken. But it's a hell of a gamble.
It is a big gamble, and the reality is, the way things are looking at the moment, what we're going to see is all that pain coming on just prior to an election.
Yeah, and they've
shot themselves completely in the foot, haven't they?
Well, the hope is, and this is that if the oil tanker that is the economy starts to turn around, that the numbers we got, because of course in the latter years of this Parliament, the OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, that didn't have the greatest day on Wednesday, actually turned around and said, the numbers that they've put the forecast down in terms of GDP numbers, but actually the hope is that if the economy can start to turn around, then those numbers will get better. And the more, and as a result of GDP getting, improved GDP growth, then actually there will be higher tax receipts coming into the Treasury. But at the moment, it is a high stakes gamble from the Chancellor, and if it doesn't pay off, then she's going to have to take those tough decisions, and even tougher decisions, as you say, just before voters go to the ballot box.
Can we talk about the Workers' Rights Bill and this day one protection has been abandoned?
Yes, so this was a policy it was a promise in the Labour Party manifesto, which was to introduce day one rights from day one of your employment to claim unfair dismissal. At the moment, it's 2 years. Now there's been a compromise negotiation with business and the trade unions, so actually it's going to kick in after 6 months. That just relates to unfair dismissal. There is going to be a revolt from Labour MPs, and the trade union movement, by the way, is split on it. Sharon Graham, I know from Unite, is very unhappy about these changes, whereas somebody like Paul Novak from the TUC accepts that actually this has been part of a negotiation and there has to be compromise on the part of the left. I also noticed Angela Rayner is keeping her powder dry.
For now.
For now. Of course, it was only a couple of months ago that she was at the dispatch box as Deputy Prime Minister extolling the benefits of day one rights to claim unfair dismissal, but that policy has now been abandoned. And it would be crucial to see how she responds over the weekend, having consulted with Labour MPs, particularly those on the left of the party, and whether those Labour MPs decide to stage a full-scale rebellion, or whether actually they decide that right now, given the perils of just getting over this budget and where the Labour find themselves right now, it might be worth just holding off a little while longer.
OK, Theo, thank you very much.